some people have said that the EB3A feels cheap compared to this one. Not this one, but it just felt cheap. This one feels kind of hollow. Like if you know what I mean, it just feels, it came at 30%. 100 watt bi-directional port, that's the clicker for me. I love that. These sideways ports are going to be interesting. I don't know if they're going to be something to get used to, but I think they'll work out well because a lot of my extension cords are angled at a certain way. No wireless charger, ports at the back, direct AC charge, and then XT60 or whatever this, I mean it's XT60, but is it special? It doesn't say anything, but that's where the solar and 12 volt comes into. Now I have mentioned this before. This having the bi-directional port is clutch for me because that's the way I'm going to charge it via 12 volt. I probably will never use this because solar will always be plugged into the back of this. That way I don't have to unplug solar to power dump into it, which is what I had to do with that one over there, which made me kind of hate power dumping into it. And because it was 200 and some odd watt hours, 288, 286, I had to power dump into that all the time. Hopefully not so much here, but even if I have to, 100 watts of PD can go in here. So that's going to be easy money. Now let's get this thing charged up for its first charge. It's at 31%. As you can see, this thing is stupid light. It's crazy how light it is for 500 some odd watt hours. I am going to charge it from the AceVolt because it's at 50%. Oukitel is at 14. I just plugged it in. It took a few seconds to really like click on. It's clicking a couple times. Okay, there it goes. 300 and okay, interesting. I'm not using its cable. I'm using a normal cable and it's being all weird. So I have this like bigger cable here. That's for these. I can use that. Or I could just go grab its cable. I'm gonna just go grab its cable and then try that. Boom. Now this time I'm gonna record me plugging it in because when I used that cable the last time, it kind of clicked a few times. So let's see. Click. Another click. Big click. Same behavior. Another click. Same stuff. I just had to pause to interrupt my kids. Now, this is showing 305. That's what this is showing on the screen. Now, this thing is a monster. 2000 watt inverter. So it should have no problem charging this. And it is charging it now. This makes me wonder if it had nothing to do with the cable, but just this device settling into charging. So I'm going to unplug that cable and plug in the, look at the difference in these cables. Jeez. I believe this one came from maybe the Oukitel P501. So it's a very a thinner AC cable. But let's talk about this for a second. We talk about how these things don't have power bricks and you just need a normal regular AC cable. This ain't no normal regular AC cable right here. This thing is beastie. So let's put the thinner one back in and see what happens. I'm gonna do it all one take this time. Cause my money don't jiggle jiggle, it folds. This thing feels like a toy. I don't care what anybody else says. $295, $305, $371, $445, $500. Let me at least see if this maintains its charge. It just turned off again. Turn it back on, gonna try again. Let's see if it keeps going. Now this is starting to click. Okay, that has more to do with solar. These do this when they're not getting enough solar. So I'm gonna unplug that one. Kill that noise. Unplug the other one too. Just so I don't have this incessant beeping. All right, 383, 429, 470, went back to 0. Now it's cycling again. I don't believe the other cable did this. So let's put the other cable, its cable back in and see if it just maintains its charge. Maybe this cable's not strong enough, which I cannot imagine because this is rated to be in one of these outlets. I know cable gauge matters, but I don't know enough about cable gauge to tell a difference between what this is rated for versus what this is rated for. All right, big monster going back in because I don't believe it stopped charging. But I didn't keep it on long enough to make sure. So let's do that one take. Unplug the monster, pop it in. Couple clicks. And we're going to give this a minute or two. You can see it got up to 600 watts. It did not stop. I am not going to unplug this again, and we'll see if it gets full. I'm actually going to sit here and monitor it, though. I won't put y'all through that to see if this stops charging again, but it's been going so far. Still maintaining. This is what we got going on over here. 595 compared to 631. Which is interesting that this would show more power coming in than this shows going out. That is weird. It's usually vice versa. This will show more power going out than this does going in. That's kind of weird to me. All right, it's been a good, what? I don't know how long, maybe a minute or so. And this has not stopped. The fan has now kicked on. So I'm going to dare to say that all cables are not created equal. Nope, it just stopped. It just stopped. Very interesting. And it stopped again. Now, as much as I hate to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug this into my wall to see if those results are consistent with straight up 120. Turned off again. And I'm going to try both cables, but I'm going to go get a kilowatt meter first. All right, plugged into the wall. I'm going to use the tiny cable first. And I have it plugged into my whatever that is. I don't know. All right. Let's watch for the magic. First click. Second smaller click. No fan yet. 43 minutes to charge, 628. Let's see what's going on the plug. If it's pulling more watts. 654. 629. So still pulling more watts from the wall. That's what I'm typically used to. I'm not used to a situation being where this is pulling whatever it was before. I don't remember. What, less power here? No, more power here, less power here. This is more power, less power, which is how it should be. Let's look at some other stats. 119 volts, 5.51 amps. There's the fan. Let's watch and see what happens. Nothing yet. I think it took about a minute for this to click out. So let's see if it clicks out again. I'll keep an eye on it while I look through this stuff again. So 2.7 was the low, 658 is the high. 658 watts coming from the wall. 120 volts, 5 amps. That should be a cakewalk for this. So I don't know what was going on there. I'm just trying to record and monitor to see if this turns off again. And again, I want to reiterate that this is the thinner cable. This is not the monster cable. Thinner cable on the wall outlet. All right, I'm gonna stop recording here. Keep an eye on it and watch it charge. And I'm gonna bring you guys back when it's full, and we'll kind of try and make some deductions there. I don't even think it makes sense to plug in the big cable, because on the small cable from the wall outlet, it's fine. Why bother, right? 5 amps should be fine on these this cable right here. Just a few minutes later, like literally like seconds, the screen, it's been charging long enough for the screen to turn off. So this is not having an issue from the wall outlet like it was on this one. At some point, I'm probably gonna test it from this charging and from that charging, just to see what happens, because this didn't bode well for this one. Yeah, so 50%. It'll be done in 37 minutes. I hate charging this from my wall. This is what I got freaking power stations for, but you know, I gotta do it for science. All right, it has been about what? Got 26 minutes left, so maybe it's been about 6-7 minutes. It's at 70%. It's still pulling 631. Let's look at the watt meter. 678, 57, whatever it was. 118 volts, 5.57 amps. Lowest, highest 658, 657.8. Have had no issues with this resetting, recycling. It's pulling the power. Now what I am curious about is to try and see the kind of amps that are coming off of this. So let's do that. All right, I just plugged it in. I start pressing record really quickly because I want to get the full transaction. 620 whatever. Thin cable like before. Watt meter in the middle. Pulling 604. So this is a situation where I'm seeing less here than it's actually coming out here. Let's look at the equalizer and see what he has to say. 647. 653. So this screen in this instance does not seem to be very accurate. Now I need to reset it for my low and high marks, but I'm not going to do that because that doesn't matter to me. I mainly just want to see volts. Ooh, 110. 6.2 amps. Interesting. Now I've seen on some of my refrigerators, oh, there it went. Started over. I should have kept the amps on. 3 amps. Reset. 0.3, 1, 3.3, 4.2, 5.15, 5.78, 6.15, 628 watts, 603 here. Reset again. Building back up. Didn't have this issue on the wall. So with this pulling, I wonder if the issue is 110 volts with the higher 6 amps. It's just not ideal for this particular power station. Now here we have this one. I plugged it into the Oukitel. These are pretty much the same devices, so I don't expect anything different. We got 630, 631. Let's see what we got here. Let me get in here a little bit. 1.8 volts, 6 amps. Fans on. 661 watts. Screen is showing 631, but 10 of that is that little, no, this computer right here, this Pi, and also that USB lamp. About 10 watts. Volts 108. Amps 6.1. Now let's watch these amps for a little bit and see what happens. Still the same thin cable. No amp droppage yet. Very interesting. If we don't see this drop, even though these are very similar devices, and this has nothing else on it, neither does this one. I put this lamp, I put it on this one because it was on this one because I don't want to have any extra AC load on it. But this is going strong. $108 volts times 6.11 amps. The high and lowest, it went a little higher over here, but that doesn't count because I haven't reset it. Dang, the amps are still going strong over here, and this hasn't reset not one time. It's still pulling the same 630 some odd watts. You would think because it just crossed the 80% threshold that could have an impact on it, but the charging hasn't slowed down. What I'm getting at is sometimes when a power station approaches full, it gets like less power coming in, but it was at 79, but it has not chilled out. So it says it has 20 minutes left to be full. This one says it has 15 minutes left of power in it. So I'm gonna let that charge. I'm probably gonna throw this battery right here with the Anderson connector on this to throw 100 watts into here, or I could just dump some power from this one into that one to compensate for that. I'll probably do that. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. That's just easier, and it guarantees that this is gonna have enough power. Okay, so I have proceeded to start charging that one from this one, and that one just reset. But this one is now getting 1200 watts into it. Now my understanding from the good brother set type is these have bi-directional inverters, so this being charged could possibly impact the way that this is charging. So what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to unplug this and just let it take its last percentage to not mess up things, and hopefully that 10% is enough to prove that this is going to charge as full as it can without being interrupted like this one was doing. Hopefully that makes sense. Now I could still take this and go into the MPPT charge controller because I think that won't impact the inverter, but I'm gonna just let this live on its own and not mess with it and just see what happens. So right now we're doing 637 over there. We still got 6.13 amps going in with 1.8 volts. I was tempted to think at first, y'all, that the voltage being lower was the issue, but that voltage is 108. This one was 110. Hasn't churned off until I started charging it. Nothing going on here. This literally has no load on it at all. I don't know, man. This is interesting. Now, let me give you just a little bit. I don't really care about any of this because this ain't necessarily going to be charged from the wall anyway. And when it is charged from the wall, it'll be charged from my actual wall instead of a power station charging it. That'll be few and far between. There's a video coming soon about that as it relates to why I'm entertaining that particular feature. But I'm going to monitor this. We'll check back on it in a second. So right now we're up from what, 80 to 92? Never turned off once. So this one has about 10 minutes left of power in it. I think it should make it because this is flying. So 92%. If it doesn't, I'll just top it off from somewhere else. But it seems like this was the issue. Oh, you saw the screen turn off. So that goes to show you how long it was charging, whatever the screen time I was set out. When we had the issues before the screen had a chance to turn off, this thing was cycling on and off every whatever or so. So it's been doing fine. All right, it just hit 96% and the charge speed is starting to slow down. So that's, I get it. Makes sense. Are we still gonna make it over here? Okay, this is showing 10 minutes left, so I think we're gonna make it. 98%. Fan is turned off. Still getting 439 watts. Says it has 11 minutes to go. I don't believe that for 1 second. And an interesting turn of events, the fan just came back on, which is interesting. And I'm in my basement. It is chilly down here. So it is not hot down here at all. So that's some temperature stuff they got going on. All right, that 10 minutes was not true. It probably took an extra like 3 to 4 minutes, maybe 5 to hit 100%. I've just been sitting here watching it. I literally just stopped recording the previous clip. So it is full. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take it upstairs to put my internet and my TV on it to drain it down to see how long I can expect for this to run both of those things, which are the things that run in my zone 1. So let's get to it. So this is in place of where this used to be. And I'm going to turn the AC on. My router is on, but my TV's not on. It's in standby mode. It uses about 15 watts. So you can see we're pulling 35 watts. Let's turn the TV on. Uses about 40. And then we're looking at the time remaining. At this load, which is 60 watts, I got about 7 hours of runtime, which is interesting. I'll have to digest that for a second. 6 hours now. So 100%, I get about 6 hours of this entire zone being powered. Now, that is not going to be typical. What is going to be typical is, I'm just going to unplug this. That load right there, 20 watts, about 15 hours. Now, you're seeing some of the inefficiency, I believe, of this inverter, because on another 500 watt hour device, I typically get about 22 hours. So that makes sense to me because it's about 75% of that number. So that's interesting. 14 hours, but that's better than 10. I could live with that particular load right there, and I could make that work incredibly easily because I can power dump into here at 100 watts. So I would never have to really worry about this running out of power. 14 hours, it is 8, 7, 6, about 6 o'clock right now. So I can make it until about 8 o'clock in the morning with that. And by that time, I'd be able to have solar possibly coming in, or maybe I supplement it with one of these other power stations that I have here to give this 14 hour a little bit of an extension of runtime. So by the time one of these is drained completely, let's just say these 300 watts, well, by the time one of these has dumped all of its juice into here, I then from that point have 14 hours, and that's gravy. So my last act, what I think I'm actually gonna do is I'm gonna try and keep the internet and the TV on for the next 6 hours, just to see if this thing is this calculation is telling the truth. This stuff does not fluctuate. This uses 40 watts every day, all day. So I'm gonna leave this on, which is running my internet, this box, and another thing that's powering my network terminal. They each use 10 watts a piece, and this is using 40, getting me to about 65. You can see that it says 6 joints. Actually, let me see what the time is. It is 6:18. So this is gonna have to run until 12. So to lose internet at 12 o'clock. Hopefully I'm up. I'm here alone with these kids. It's my wife's birthday weekend, so she's out and about. Anyway, mind your business. I'm the only one around, so I'm probably gonna be asleep by like 10, 10:30, 11. 60 watts, 2 hours left. It is 10:49. So what I noticed is that in the app, it said it had like about 6 hours and 43 minutes. So it may give me just around 7 hours. We'll see. We'll see. I believe it, but will it last till the end? All right. So we have 64 watts being used, 30 minutes left, 8%. and it is 12:07. There you go. I think that held up pretty good. We started at 6:30. It'll probably last. We started at about 6:15, 6:17 to be specific. So it has been about 6 hours, right? All right, one last check-in. 4 minutes left, 1% remaining, still 60 something going strong. Internet still going, a little light below zero, and it is 12:36. There's that fan again. Jeez, I don't like this fan. Man, I'm not a fan. But it kept its word. So I don't know if I'm happy about it being right here. Things may have to change a bit because I need a quieter power station right here. This is not gonna fly. Now what I can do is I have this extension cord right here. I could at the end of the night move it out here so it's less loud, but what's the point in that? I wanted to have a quieter power station here. Hopefully my fellow solar whatevers will make us think about the fan noise and EcoFlow will fix it. It's 3,000 cycles. They fixed it on this one. Fixed it. They addressed it on here. I don't know if it's going to affect longevity, but with 3,000 life cycles, who cares? Let it get hot. You know, thug life. And it runs routinely. Hopefully when it has a 20-watt load on it, it doesn't blare as loud, but then it'll be, at that point, it'll be a reasonable solution for my internet, which is what I wanted it for. It's nice that it can run both, but with the fan noise being like that, that's not an ideal situation. I may have to have the TV on a separate power station anyway, which is ideal because it only gives you 6 hours, right? It's not a whole lot of runtime, but being able to power dump into it will make it last much, much, much longer. I could throw a 1200-watt battery on that with a USB-C cable, and then I got 1200 watts to supplement that 512. So if that runs for 6 hours, it would stand to reason that I could run this whole thing for 18 hours. But now with that fan noise, man, I'm not a fan of that. I'm just not. All right, let's keep this thing going. I'm gonna charge it with this one, rated up to 1,000 watts on its inverter. Got the watt meter in the middle. This is fully depleted. It was at 10 minutes. At 1%, but it didn't last a full 10 minutes. I can respect that. So let's go ahead and turn this on. See if we get the clicks and the reset issues and all that. 2 clicks. Charging. $540, $550, very close in terms of what this is seeing. Let's see what the trusty watt meter is showing us. 577. Let's look at these volts though. 110 volts, 5.29 amps. Fan just turned on here. %. Shout out 2%. This one has not turned off either yet. Has not cycled once. And remember, the voltage on here is the same as the voltage on the AceVolt. So it seems like this story is not over. But this is a part of my charge, recharge, what is it? Charge, discharge, charge cycle. So I'm basically going to take this 500 some odd watt hours out of here and to here. What I will tell you is how many watt hours this takes completely, which is going to be shown here. I did reset this so you can see that the timer is like 2 minutes. So everything is reset here. The lowest was 2.6. The high is 613 and climbing. 615. That's how many watts is coming in. Let's look at the screen here. 590. 590. So these are very close. Almost full. We had 98%. Didn't have an issue, not once. 600, blah, 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 blah. Took a lot of power. Let's see how many watt hours we dished out here. 574 watts or watt hours. That's interesting. This thing was at what, like 4 dots, which is about 80%. Each thing is 20%. This is a 1200 watt hour battery, so 240, 240, 240, 240. Something doesn't add up there, but maybe this thing is at its 80% capacity. That's a math problem for another day. But this one's almost done. After this is done, my full discharge charge cycle is complete. I do it overboard. It just is what it is. And now I could use this however I see fit, which is going to be interesting. All right, now is I've holla.